Ben Gertzel here. Someone was asking me yesterday about my motivations for pushing so hard on building AGI, and what I said to them was it's shifted a bunch over my lifetime. I found out that building something like AGI might be a reality in the early 70s when I started reading a bunch of future technology books in the town library. I was excited to realize that the ideas of AI that I'd read about in science fiction were taken seriously by real engineers and professors and so forth. And at that point, it was like a young boy's excitement for all cool things, right? Like nanotech, immortality, space travel, port yourself to multiple universes. Yeah, that's awesome, right? And of course, it was also a major intellectual challenge. Like, thinking was amazing and miraculous. Like, how do our brains carry out this complex thought and feeling process? How does meat lead to mind, right? And trying to solve this puzzle was motivating to me in the same way that, like, exploring a new continent will be motivating. And that's, I think, how most AI researchers in my generation got into the field. Certainly when I got my PhD in the late 80s, AI was not much of a way to make money, right? Like, if you wanted to make money or make a huge business, computers were new then. The internet wasn't yet a thing. If you wanted to make money, you might do computers, you might do Wall Street, multi-level marketing, right? You're not gonna do AI. And still, well, I've done a number of things in business now. I've never felt a huge pull to get loads of money for myself. I think the things that bring the most joy in life are pretty much, human relationships, nature, your own peace and creativity in your own mind, right? Life is not about accumulating money, although certainly from the standpoint of running SingularityNet and ASI lines, finances are very important because we need money for compute, we need money to pay developers, we need money to make amazing products that can transform the world with AI, right? Now that AI is on the verge of transforming the economy, the economic aspect is very important to the growth of AI in an appropriate way. But when I started, it just wasn't about that, right? When I started, it was about how does the mind work and what's the most amazing things you can do. And as I worked through the decades of my career, these motivations certainly didn't go away, but I started to get a deeper sense of all the suffering in the world. And I had a reasonably nice childhood. I was born in Brazil, then grew up in Oregon and New Jersey. It was certainly not rich, but we were lower than middle class. Life was materially all right. I was aware in childhood of the Vietnam War. Like, we saw all these pictures of people being blown up for what seemed like no good reason. So the presence of ridiculous and unnecessary amounts of suffering inflicted on humans by other humans was clear to me from an early age. And I also remember, I think I might have been 1.5 or just barely 2. I found out some great grandmother, who I may have never even met, had died, and I kept asking my parents what the hell that meant to be dead. And finally my mom said a bunch of things I couldn't understand. My dad was like, we saw a dead animal out in the street the other day, like that. I'm like, oh, we're all going to end up like that. Well, that's not good. Can't we do anything about it, right? And it turned out my dad had led a protest group, sort of tongue-in-cheek, when he was in college, called SLAM, the Student League Against Mortality, protesting against death, right? So, I mean, suffering from war, suffering from death and aging, I always knew about from early childhood. Of course, they're part of life. But as I got older and went through my career, I traveled more around the world. I saw more of the suffering in the developing world. I had family members with mental illness. I knew people who committed suicide, and I started to think, well, hold on, like a thinking machine that is much, much smarter than people, maybe it could solve many of these problems in a way that we can't figure out, right? And I mean, I was also very aware of Buddhism and such traditions, and the notion that to an extent suffering is in your attitude and your perception, and if you break through to a different state of consciousness, you're going to be in bliss regardless of the nasty things in the world. And there's a reality to that too, but you can hold that in your mind, the bliss of just existing, while also holding in your mind, wow, can't we get rid of some of this apparently excessive and needless suffering, and as I worked through my career, it became more and more clear to me that AI isn't just a cool thing, like a revolutionary science fiction technology. I mean, AI, when it gets to the AGI and ASI level, really has incredible potential to do good, to stop this scarcity and political issues that lead to constant wars on the planet, to stop disease, aging, and death, to help with mental illness. Like it can't solve every single problem. It can't make your object of affection necessarily love you back. It can't do everything that you ever want in life, but it could improve things really tremendously, right? And when you then get to think about risks and trade-offs, and yes, there's a potential to solve a huge percentage of the problems that we face. On the other hand, what if it goes awry? And there are many examples of that I saw in science fiction from early childhood also. But this, the more I thought through it, the more I didn't see why the dark side was going to be especially probable, because we're building this mind, right? I mean, there's always going to be some unpredictability, but we can build a mind with being compassionate toward people and helping people as its primary motive, and you can build it so that it doesn't change its primary motive in a careless way, right? And if you build the AGI that way, it never seemed clear to me why you'd think there's a high odds that it's going to suddenly switch from being beneficial and helpful and rewire itself to be a psychopath. I'm not going to do that, right? If I'm in a beneficial, loving, helpful mind, and I can rewire my brain, and I have the ability to run a bunch of simulations of all my candidate brain rewiring experiments to see how they'll come out. Like I'm not going to say, okay, let's rewire my brain to make myself a horrible killer psychopath, right? I mean, certainly there's more to it than that, and I've gone through detailed math analyses of the problem of AIs rewriting their own goal systems in various circumstances, but intuitively I thought that if we're building the AGI to be compassionate and helpful, we can probably work things so that it keeps on being that way. And with all the research I've done, I haven't come upon any reason to think otherwise on that point. I've seen that many others think about the trade-off differently, and they're more worried about the risks outweighing the benefits. And indeed, this is a substantial matter, and you would like our species as a whole to weigh in on it, right? And as I've said a number of times, like if we had a rational, beneficial world government going on, we should be doing a democratic, participatory process across our whole species to try to, decide how fast to progress with these technologies. How much do we value the suffering they can eliminate, the abundance and the options they can open? How much do we value that versus being afraid of the risks? As it is, though, where are we now? So those of us who are oriented toward using AI to create abundance for all and reduce suffering as much as feasible are not currently holding the steering wheel for AI development, let alone the world economy, right? And you have people thinking about the AI race as an AI arms race, basically, where the Secretary of War of the US is like, my definition of a responsible AI is one that will kill whoever I want it to kill. And I mean, of course AI is going to be part of the military now, and I'm very aware that there are genuine terrorists out there. There are bad things in the world that the militaries associated with nation states need to stop, and like pure pacifism is not a viable option yet. On the other hand, how much focus do we want on that? I mean, we are not going to stop military intelligence or anyone else from using AI, but I mean, we want the main focus of AI development to be on the use of AI for helping people, for beneficial purposes, right? And so now, in the practical state of things, like the question isn't, do we move forward toward AI at all, right? I mean, the question is, while we push forward toward AGI, which is happening, right? The question is, while we push forward toward AGI, do we do it in a way that's focused toward alleviating suffering and bringing broad benefit, or do we do it in a way that's oriented toward, helping one military defeat the others, or helping one company make more money than the others? And that's the situation we face right now. So my motivation has really shifted twice over my career, I'd say. First, it was pretty much just intellectual curiosity and the desire to build very cool things, right? Then it shifted to, think about all the suffering we could alleviate. And now it's shifted again in recent years to oh shit, if we can't build the beneficial AGI first under like broad democratic participatory control, and then someone else is going to build the first AGI, to help their military win and their allied companies make more money. And then you think about, okay, hold on. The reason I wasn't worried about long-term risk so much is I figured we could build the first AGI in a beneficial way and build it to modify itself only carefully as it progresses. But what if the first AGI is not built in a beneficial way? Earlier in my career, it hadn't occurred to me that our species could be so stupid as to build the first AGI with some goal other than the good of our species. Why would you be dumb enough to build the first AGI with the goal of just trying to stomp your enemy or take all the money from somebody else? Given the, world historical gravity of what's going on here. But now, being a bit older, I'm no longer at all surprised by the human species being short-sighted, self-defeating, and idiotic in many ways, right? And my motive for building beneficial AGI and ASI has shifted a whole bunch with a high weight on, holy shit, making the good AGI before the narrow-minded tribalistic AGI, may be critical to our survival and to our ability to, create amazing new species of mind that are worthy descendants to us.